Hey everybody! Welcome to another episode of Crushed Celluloid, where we discuss those forgotten films of yesteryear in a way that only two aimless film buffs could. Today, we'll be discussing the 1987 Whoopi Goldberg film, Fatal Beauty. No, the title does not refer to Goldberg being a sexy lady that ain't afraid to get rowdy. It refers to drugs. Goldberg plays a cop trying to clean up the streets with the help of her mustachioed sidekick, lover, stalker guy, who's played by Sam Elliott. So let's take a trip back to the 1980s, where big hair, big guns, and big piles of cocaine reigned supreme. It's time for Crushed Celluloid.
Today we are talking about Fatal Beauty, the 1987 Whoopi Goldberg vehicle.
That I don't think either of us knew existed before today.
No, somehow I stumbled upon the poster. I was like, hey, we should do this, because I don't know what the fuck this is.
Well, that's weird, because there's like nothing going on the poster. It's just like her hanging out on a pink car.
Yeah, it's I don't know, maybe it reminded me of Pink Cadillac.
Well, that's kind of funny that you mentioned that, because the writers of this movie, one of them did a lot of Eastwood stuff, which is why this movie has a very, like, Dirty Harry feel to it.
Yeah,
because he did a lot of that. Like, he did Coogan's Bluff, Play Misty for Me, and he also wrote, like, Dirty Harry and The Enforcer.
Yeah, that's crazy. I like Play Misty for Me. That's a good one. Kind of.
It's kind of funny because that was one of the two writers on this. The other writer also wrote Roadhouse.
I did see that because I had to look it up after the movie, because watching this I was like, this feels a lot like Roadhouse. Like, there are certain moments where I'm like, this is very Roadhouseian.
Which is now a word in our vocabulary.
It's a literature term. It gets thrown around every once in a while.
Yeah, well, basically, as soon as you told me about it, I had no idea what this movie was, but when I kind of looked it up briefly, I saw that it was directed by Tom Holland, who I'm a big fan of. He's the guy that wrote and directed Fright Night. He also wrote and directed Child's Play along with Don Mancini. He did the Langoliers, which I love, and he also did Thinner.
I like Thinner a lot. Langoliers, I am on the fence about, because I want to like it, but the CGI in it is so shitty.
That is the only thing I have against it. I really like that movie. The CGI is horrible, but it's fucking like 1995, man. Like, come on. They had a shoestring budget. It was like a made-for-TV movie. They did what they could.
Yeah, and they did all right, but maybe they should have Jawsed it and just, never quite see the entire Langolier or something.
Well, if anything, when it finally does kind of get revealed, it is hilarious.
Oh, it's bad. But enough about the Langoliers. We're talking about Fatal Beauty.
Yeah, which, by the way, originally was a vehicle for Cher.
Like, I knew it was not, because one of the big things in this movie is that is never addressed is that Whoopi Goldberg reveals that she is an Italian woman. And
it's just kind of skimmed over. They're just like, yeah, it's like, that's Italian, right? Yeah. The end.
Yeah. And that's all you ever hear. I'm just like, wait.
Her name is Rita Rizzoli.
Rizzoli, yeah. And you're just sitting there like, they're really not going to try and further this? Like, how is Whoopi Goldberg possibly Italian?
Yeah, well, apparently, like, Sam Elliott is also in this. He's the lead male. And apparently, after him and Cher worked together on Mask, they, like, wanted to do another project together, and that was going to be this. But apparently, for some reason, towards the last minute, Cher had to drop out, and Whoopi Goldberg was, becoming more famous and doing good in the box office, so they put her in it, and just didn't really change anything. Except, though, they did decide to just, like, add the whole black element in there, but they couldn't change her name for some reason.
Yeah, why not just change the name, and then just take out the Italian line? It would be so much simpler than having this completely, like, what the fuck moment.
Yeah. And honestly, while watching this movie, I could imagine Cher in this role. I just don't think she would have done nearly as well as Whoopi Goldberg did. Whoopi.
No. I mean, I don't have much love for Cher. I don't have much love for Whoopi either. I mean, like, any movie I like with her, which is mostly not the Nun movie.
Sister Act.
The Sister Acts. Mostly,
and
I
Theodore
like those.
Rex.
You know
you love Theodore Rex.
But I can't really separate her from nostalgia. So I don't think she's good, but this movie kind of made me change my mind. Maybe I
Well,
need
that's
to
the
look
thing.
back at Whoopi.
Yeah, like 80s Whoopi. Whoopi. Uh, it's very good. Like everything, because I think like the second movie she did was The Color Purple, which is awesome.
Yeah.
And then she
Yeah.
had like a run of like really good movies in the 80s. She did like Burglar, Jumpin' Jack Flash, this, and I think she had one other like big one in the 80s. So
I think
she
most
actually did more
people
like, not, I won't want to say serious movies, but they're not as family friendly or silly as the stuff in the 90s, like the Sister Act movies and Theodore Rex and shit like that.
I will say most people, including Siskel and Ebert, will vastly disagree with you on Burglar and Jumping Jack Flash.
Oh, fuck you. I liked Jumping Jack Flash when I was a kid.
I haven't seen it. I don't remember.
I have not seen Burglar, though. I just know that that's like kind of what started her off on that career trajectory. She was doing good apparently those movies did well, so that's why she got tossed into this movie. This movie apparently, though, I don't think did too well. I don't know what the budget was, but I think it only grossed like $12 million, so I think this might have been like her first kind of flop.
Interesting, because I would imagine this wouldn't flop. I really enjoyed this movie.
Well, it might have. I don't know what the budget was, if it was a very low budget film, but it feels like there's a lot of stuff going on. It feels like it probably did pretty bad.
But still, $12 million for an '80s Hollywood movie, that's still kind of high. Like, I can't imagine it would have gone over $12 million. Let's go ahead and jump into the opening, the very funky opening on...
Yeah, you feel that beat drop?
Ooh!
It's because the beat drops and then you hear everyone going like, woo! I was like, yeah, you see that? Everyone's face just went sour and they started asking questions. They were like, woo! What?
And then we get to the shots of the streets and it's like Taxi Driver on speed or something.
Yeah,
like,
it is completely 80s New York.
Yeah, it is littered with prostitutes and crime. It's insane. And so it's Whoopi walking, looking like
Whoopi.
Like an insane mess.
She looks like she does in the beginning of fucking Sister Act. It looks like the same kind of character.
Oh, I guess that's true. I didn't really think about that, but she has this horrible blonde perm wig on and this weird polka dot, like, shiny reflective jacket. Like
that's Whoopi as a prostitute. That's how she feels she would be if she were a prostitute.
I guess it's more that the 80s are an insane time that I don't really understand than it is that I don't understand Whoopi.
Yeah, this movie did come out the year we were born, so we were a little bit behind.
Yeah, but the 80s were apparently a weird time in fashion, from what I can tell from this movie. And we follow her, and she goes into this bar, and...
Which, by the way, when she's walking into the bar, this is the first... There is so much fucking ADR in this movie. Like, it just kept sticking out to me every time, but the first one that I noticed was when she was walking into the bar, she says to some guy that I guess, like, said something to her. She's like, personal hygiene is a good habit. Let the comedy begin.
It's wonderful. And she goes up and she talks to Cheech.
It's Cheech as the bartender.
Yeah. And I love this interaction they had. Like, do you want a glass? No, wrap it in a fucking taco, you dumb motherfucker. I really dug Whoopi's ghetto impression. Like,
she was good. I felt like she hated Mexicans a little bit, but no, it was good.
A little bit. It was funny. And she meets the most effeminate drug dealer or like drug lord you will ever meet. He is so amazing. He has this very lovingly curled hair and he has a diamond studded pinky ring with his initials on it, and he's just like, oh honey. he's wonderful.
He's adorable.
I wish
we lost him too soon.
We lost him far too soon. He had so much life left in him.
Well, basically, she's kind of trying to get a drug deal going to buy coke from this guy. But it just so happens she sees some dude going apeshit on a lady that I guess she knows and just like beating the shit out of her and dragging her out back. So she kind of rushes out the back to go save the day and stop this dude. And this guy just goes fucking apeshit on Whoopi after she pulls the gun on him. And this is, again, ADR complete, or at least I don't know if it was ADR. I don't know if they ADR'd this guy's lines in later, or if they literally paid a guy to just scream nigger over and over again while beating the shit out of Whoopi Goldberg. I hope it was ADR'd and he wasn't just really having to do that. Because they're just very liberal throwing out that word very early into this movie.
It's like nigger, like the rest of it's almost mumbles. You can't really, like, all you can hear is this racial slur being thrown out.
He's just like kicking her and just like, nigger, bitch, cut, nigger,
Yeah, it's like Tourette's level.
Yeah. Well, it's funny too because then when she finally like gets up and stuff, she's like, and don't, or actually she gets up and ends up shooting him and shit. She's like, and don't
Yeah.
call me bitch. I was like, that's the one you have a problem with?
that's well, that's the running theme. She cannot take bitch,
But she doesn't mind being called a cunt or being called a nigger.
She is quite all right with nigger.
And I would love the fact
was-
if that was still on the script, like when it was supposed to be Cher. Like that guy was still just gonna keep yelling nigger while beating up Cher. But it's kind of our introduction to the character. We see that she's like a take no shit, tough cop. I mean, yeah, she kind of got her
Yeah.
ass beat a little bit, but she immediately got up, started cracking wise to him, and shot him dead.
Yeah, and in the process, she loses her drug money, which comes into play later. If we didn't cover it, she's an undercover cop. I don't know if we mentioned that.
Yeah,
during all
well,
this.
kind of. We said she was setting up a drug deal thing, so that implied it.
Yeah, I suppose. But yeah, there were people listening in a van who, oddly enough, don't come till much later. They must have been very far away.
They don't come until she says "officer down." They could hear her getting the shit kicked out of her and what this guy was saying to her, but it wasn't until she said "officer down" and then they ran out of the van.
Yeah. And then we go on to meet the main bad guys of the movie, where
Chucky.
we get Chucky. Was that the guy's name?
Well, no,
no, called Earl.
No, his name. The main bad guy is Brad Dourif, who voiced Chucky in the Child's Play movies.
Oh, no way! I did not.
Yeah, and he's
realize
also
that.
in like Lord of the Rings and stuff like that. But I love Brad Dourif, and you could tell there are a lot of times in this movie where he's like screaming and stuff to where he sounds just like Chucky. That he's kind of doing that voice a little bit, which is really just his voice anyway.
And they go into this drug house, or it's the fat permed effeminate man, and he walks into this drug house, and there's a bunch of Chinese people sitting around in their underwear,
And we do get to see a few titties. I will say that.
A couple of titties, and they're cutting coke, or they're cutting a white powder. What we find out is coke, and there's one guy that's just off his ass, like.
I love that guy so much.
Oh, and there's just so many close-up of his face, just like.
And you see like the white powder on his
hysterically.
nose and stuff, and he's just like giggling ridiculously.
Yeah, and the fat effeminate guy's like, look, this is what happens when you let them do this. And they're just going. The guy's going crazy, and there's this whole high tension scene, and we go to a shot in a van of these other people.
But they have the guy driving the van. He's the guy on the inside that's gonna leave the door unlocked for them so they can bust in.
Yeah.
And I will say one thing. I was so happy in this opening scene because something happens that never fucking happens in movies, but then it gets thrown out the fucking window later. When the guys finally bust in and start shooting like the guys and everything, it was a realistic clip change. Like, they shot for about 5 to 7 seconds and then ran out of bullets and had to change their clips. I was like, that never fucking happens. It's realistic. Later on, when there are shootouts, that goes out of the fucking window.
Sometimes they deal with it. Sometimes they decide not to. It's very interchangeable.
Well, I thought that was very refreshing.
It was, yeah. And they shoot just everybody, the Chinese people and everyone. They were just lowly workers.
Yeah, and they're basically there and they're stealing all of the drugs from them. But what they do not know is that because of the crazy little Asian boy that was high off his ass while cutting up the stuff and packaging it, he basically made a bad batch. He didn't cut it right. He made it too strong. He added in like PCP or something.
Yeah.
And even the drug dealer like took a taste and was like, that would kill an elephant. And that's the drugs that they steal that they are going to be putting out in the street. And the name of the drug is Fatal Beauty.
Yeah, and he's misstamping the bags.
He's misstamping. That's how you kind of know the difference. Instead of being dead on, they're kind of off center and part of it isn't there. But that's the bad batch of drugs that the movie is named after.
Yeah, so we go through this bloodbath, and then we go to Whoopi back at police headquarters, and we get the crazy lieutenant character who's just screaming at her and drinking Pepto-Bismol out of the bottle and shit.
Yeah, definitely. There's a cliche police chief, of course. Yeah, chugging the Pepto was hilarious to me. It's like, my ulcers.
Yeah, and he becomes the stereotypical crazy police chief because he cannot keep his emotions in cue. He will just he's either yelling or he is acting kind of insane throughout the movie. And I wish we had more of him. He gets very underplayed in the second half of the movie.
Yeah, he only gets a few scenes, but he does his best to live up to the cliche.
Yeah, but Whoopi, after being on duty for 18 hours, gets sent to this Chinese drug house, And this is the scene where it might have gotten the X rating because they're like, hey, we can't identify him. Do you think you can? And it's just like, yeah, his face is gone. And she's like, but she recognizes him by his pinky ring. And so maybe that's one of the things that was cut out because I thought it was weird.
It could be, yeah. They could have shown that and it just could have been graphic. By the way, one of the two cops that are up there that are kind of hassling Whoopi is MC Gainey, who we just saw last week in Ringmaster.
Yeah.
So I was like, oh my god, it's fucking MC Gainey week at Crust Celluloid. This is awesome.
I did not notice that, but now I totally see it. He has that jaw.
Yeah.
And yeah, so she catches them. We find out what a good cop Whoopi is. She goes outside and catches some blood under the van, realizes the helper has been shot and left for dead in the back of the van.
Which this is funny to me because every time she like sees something or kind of does a little bit of detective work, the other two cops are just like, "What are you doing? What are you doing?" It's like, "Oh, how'd you figure that out?" She's doing like the most simple fucking detective work that a police officer should do, and their minds are just fucking blown by it. Like, "Oh, how do you do that? Trucks don't bleed." The fuck?
Mind blown.
Yeah.
So we go back to her office, and her cubicle looks like the ramblings of a mad person. There's just names scribbled everywhere, like you would expect to just find like pieces of string tied between shit everywhere. And
yeah, I think this is where the idea for the number 23 with Jim Carrey came from.
Yeah,
they saw her office and they're like, no, what if we put Jim Carrey in a room like that?
Because it is insane. There's an insane amount of scrawlings over the wall, and the chief comes, he's like, "You scare me, Rizzoli," writing on the goddamn walls. And yes, he should be scared. It is a very frightening scene. And he's just like, "Why do you do it?" And she's like, "Oh, maybe one day I'll explain it to you." And so you think as the audience, oh, this will be explained. Not really ever explained why she would have dead drug dealers' names just scribbled everywhere.
Yeah, I think it's more so her just explaining it away so they don't have to explain it. She's like, "Oh, it's such a long story. I'll tell you one day." All right, now we don't have to talk about why this is so fucked up.
So, moving on. Just truck ahead. And we go from there to this, one of my favorite scenes of the movie. It just reminded me of just such cheap action movies in the 80s that I love. That there's a scene and this guy walks up dressed like a punk, but that Billy Idol kind of conception of what a punk is.
Like, this motherfucker's going to a white wedding.
Yeah, and it is not threatening at all in this day and age. He just looks fucking silly. Like he just walked out of Hot Topic. Like an undercover cop went into Hot Topic and decided this is what punks look like. That's what he gives off. And they kick some people out of their seats in a restaurant. The other two guys from before that shot up the drug house, they show up, and something about like the two original guys are trying to intimidate them, like snapping, like
they're basically saying like, "We're your new business, we're your new supplier."
Yeah, and the other guys get pissed. He's like, "Hey, stand up," whatever muscle guy name is. And he stands up, and then the other one's like, "Oh, hey, Earl."
Yeah, do your thing.
Yeah, and he's a little bit taller, so the other guy just shrinks down because he's met a taller man.
Yeah, pretty much, because that's all it takes.
Yeah, and then the other guy is still trying to give him shit, so he's like, "Hey, Earl." And Earl takes a glass bottle and just starts just bites a fucking piece off and starts chewing it in front of the guy. And the guy's like,
it's fucking intimidating, but you know what? You know what we learned about that character in that moment? Wild card, bitches.
Wild card. And also, I love that they don't cut over, like, it's not just that he's chewing glass and swallowing it. He swallows it, and then he takes another glass, like something, a seltzer water, and just spits out blood in it. And it just like kind of fizzes up. I love that.
Yeah, and it's just like, "Here you go. Here's your drink back."
Yeah, and like the guy's finally like, "Okay, I'll back off."
Yeah, and I was like, no, I think just eating the glass would have done the job. You didn't have to take it to the next level.
The blood spit, that's just flourish. He's just like, and done.
Yeah, so we kind of get introduced to the bad guys in that way. But then we come to I have a lot of favorite scenes in this movie, but I really love this next scene where Rizzoli goes to buy a sandwich. Yeah. And she's basically kind of, just talking to the guy. She goes in there a lot, buying her sandwich. And we get to meet little James LaGrosse, and he's so baby-faced. Yes. And he comes in, and he's just basically saying like, "Oh, you're the bitch that fucking put my friend away."
Well, no, because I love this part. I'm going to break into your apartment. I'm going to kick your ass. Then maybe for dessert, I'll fuck your brains out. Like, that's...
I love her response, too. She just fucking laughs in his face.
Well, I wanna focus on I'm gonna break into your apartment. I'm going to kick your ass. Like that is not the threat that should follow that previous threat. Like the second threat is much less. And then
Yeah, it should be like, I'm going to kill you. But no, it's just like, I'm going to kick your ass, and then maybe for dessert, I'll fuck your brains out. And Whoopi Goldberg just, like, it's such an honest, sincere laugh in his face. And I was like, see, that's how you treat a rapist. You just laugh in their face, and you bring them down.
Yeah, because she laughs and she's like, "Be still, my heart." I love that. It was awesome.
I really love Whoopi in this movie. Like, she was cracking me up quite a bit. And it's very subtle moments
good,
like that
yeah.
where she just treats it like that. But so after very ridiculously threatening Whoopi, he's basically like, "Oh, I'll show you what I can do." And he goes for his pocket knife, but it's gone. And Whoopi's like, "Oh, you missing something?" And she has his knife, and it's kind of a funny little moment. But then he starts getting a little freaked out, and he picks up a bigger knife that was from the deli counter, and he's like, "Back the fuck up, bitch! Let me out of here! I'm gonna turn you into steak tartare." Just the most ridiculous line reading of steak tartare, and it was so awkward. Like he had no idea what it actually was.
Yeah, and this sets up Whoopi's running gag, which is there are two things I don't like in this world. One is being called a bitch, the other is steak tartare.
And that is kind of her catchphrase. It's always just there are two things I don't like in this world. One is being called a bitch, the second is whatever is relevant to the scene right now.
Yeah. That should be on a t-shirt, whatever is relevant to the scene right now.
Yeah, so basically she kind of cuts the kid some slack. I guess thinks he's not that much of a bad kid, even though he threatened to beat her up and rape her. And it's like he's a good kid at heart, so she lets him go and kind of goes...
Well, she just wanted to get to sleep, I think was her thing. She doesn't want to do more paperwork.
So she takes her sandwich home, which is a weird transition because it's very clearly night when she is in the deli, and then she walks into her apartment, which apparently isn't very far away, because it's...
Apparently.
Yeah, but then it's like middle of the day when she gets inside.
There's a scene where the girl that was beat up wants to get money from her to go get a score since she's beat up and she can't work in that condition, and her cat steals her piece of ham from her sandwich, and so she takes the bowl of cat food. Her cat's a total dick, and so she takes the bowl of cat food she just poured for the cat and pours it on her sandwich, and then looks so disappointed and just walks away.
Yeah, she does it. She's like, "Oh, whatever," and then she's like, "No, I'm better than this."
It's not wet cat food. She is pouring dried cat food onto a sandwich, and then after that, she acts like, you know what, I can't do this. Like she was actually about to eat dried cat food on a sandwich.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of a funny joke, but at the same time, it's just really sad that she was about to do that.
Yeah, I mean, it was just weird, because I expected her to take a bite of the sandwich or something to get some, like, as comic relief, but it's like she does it, then she's disappointed with her idea to do it in the first place.
Well, I kind of think that's funnier than if she had actually taken a bite. I kind of enjoyed that. Plus, I mean, even if it was in the script, like, oh, and then you take a bite of the sandwich, Whoopi was like, I'm not gonna fucking eat cat food for you guys.
This is not happening. This is demeaning.
Was Cher going to do this? I don't think so.
Cher doesn't eat cat food.
That I know of.
You know, she might. And so then we see Whoopi driving in her hot pink convertible while we get our first taste of the theme song in the movie that I'm guessing was tied into the movie about, I think it's criminal. I say it's criminal. It's the fucking stupidest song, and it's so horrible, and it doesn't fit with the music of any of the rest of the movie.
Yeah, most of the music in this movie is very bad, but it's just very 80s in that way.
There's a couple, like, I'd say the beginning song was pretty good. It was funky, if you allow me.
No,
and
I'll allow it this time.
And then there's in the end kind of stalking scene, there was a really good song playing, and then there's this song that's horrible, and then just the music cues are way off. Like,
there's also there's like a fucking Debbie Gibson song later on in the movie.
Yeah, it's strange. It's definitely very 80s, and it has moments of cool music, then just coupled with this horrible electro pop kind of 80s.
Yeah, I will say there is one music cue later on that I can't wait to discuss because it was my absolute favorite.
I'm sure I noted it too. And so she goes to Kroll, to who she thinks is behind all the cocaine being funneled in.
Spoilers, he totally is.
He totally is. And her chief won't let her talk to the man. So she takes it upon herself to go to this man's house, and we're introduced to Sam Elliott.
Just cause.
Cause why not? And that's the scene where he's like,
and he is just smirking his way through this whole movie. But it's weird because his mustache kind of hides his smirks in a very off-putting way.
It does. But I loved him in this movie. He was so good. He was great, Sam Elliott, as always.
I thought he was very good in this movie as well. But it's kind of funny because from the very first moment he like sees Whoopi, like he acts as like, okay, this is my love interest for the film, so I'm gonna give her, you know, the pretty eyes, and I'm gonna smirk at her and stuff without even like meeting her or talking to her at all. He's just like, I have my eyes set on you right now.
Yeah,
I like Italian girls.
I've
always had a thing for Italian women.
Which Whoopi Goldberg is so obviously Italian. You know, I could tell by your dreadlocks that you're Italian. It's so ridiculous.
Black Italian, it happens.
Yeah, and so Sam Elliott won't let her into the house, to Kroll's house, so she takes it upon herself to sneak around back, and she finds Kroll in the pool, and when he gets out to greet her, he's apparently skinny dipping, and so she gets to make a dick joke, because there are many dick jokes in this movie.
I didn't think he was skinny dipping.
Yeah, no, you can totally see his ass.
Oh, I must have missed that moment.
That's why there's a dick joke.
Whoopi Goldberg is all about belittling men's dicks in this movie.
Yes,
she does it on several occasions, and it's always funny.
Oh, they're good. Which the one for this one is, does that come in adult size? That's very funny, Rizzoli. Thank you. She also answers a lot of rhetorical questions.
She does. Seriously, this is a note that I made. This movie's dialogue in a nutshell. Whoopi Goldberg says something funny. White guy, that's supposed to be funny? Whoopi, yeah. White guy, oh. The end. You're welcome.
Yes, that was brilliant line reading.
Thank you.
But yeah, she always has a rejoinder to a rhetorical saying.
Every time someone questions whether or not what she said sarcastically was supposed to be funny, she was like, yeah, it was supposed to be funny. What are you, stupid?
Yeah, like, come on, why are you asking me that? She doesn't understand the rhetorical. It doesn't come into her purview.
Well, she doesn't appreciate people not recognizing her humor. as a comic.
She has to punch it up even more.
So then we kind of get to see the effects of the drug, the fatal beauty, because Whoopi Goldberg is going to see her informant, the lady that we saw get beat up in the beginning of the film, and there's a bunch of cops outside of her place, and apparently some guy is all hopped up on the drugs and is causing a ruckus.
I will say, I love there's this part where after it's explained to her what's going on, like, hopefully she's not on the same drugs this guy's on. There's a Chinese police officer at the forefront, and he's just like, hey, Rizzoli!
And it's like, what do you think this is, Pearl Harbor?
This is the weirdest scene.
Yeah, it's weird. And of course that guy gets shot because he's up at front acting like an asshole. Yes. So then this big burly guy comes out of the house and he's like mumbling to himself and he's being crazy. You can tell he's all hopped up on drugs. And he has a gun. So immediately when he points it and shoots the first police officer, everyone starts firing at him. And this movie has some fucking balls. This was a badass scene. This dude gets shot like 12 fucking times in the chest, and he's just kind of like not knowing what's going on and moving around and still mumbling to himself. And then he kind of very slowly goes down, like, and slides down a hood of a car. Like, it was fucking brutal.
Yeah, it was. And then we go inside. It's still kind of another brutal scene where she's dealing with the woman's overdose, her informant's overdose, where she's trying to bring her back to life, and this little like 12-year-old black kid comes in and gives so much exposition within the state of like 30 seconds. Where
it is funny too because he comes in, he gives a bunch of exposition, and then he's like, "Hey, help me with this lady that's dying." And he's like, "Nope, gotta go. My job's done."
Yeah, I'm running out the front, even though there are a bunch of cops with guns drawn.
Yeah, I don't understand. I'm all out of exposition. I need to get out of here.
You know what? My time in this movie is done. Later. And her informant ends up dying, and it's kind of like, it's really kind of sad. It's this whole, like, they really set up the drug house very well. It looks very ramshackle. It looks like a sad state of being. I wish the the kid had some other sadder moment, but he looks pretty alright for living in that horrible of an environment.
But he seems jaded to it. He seems so used to it that it doesn't really bother him. He's just like, oh, she must have gotten some bad shit. Oh, he probably got it from over here, from this guy, blah, blah, blah. He's just used to that lifestyle. So basically, like you were saying, Whoopi Goldberg is about to go out and do another undercover operation, and that's where Sam Elliott comes back into her life. And it's basically like, my boss paid me to follow you because he wants to know what the fuck you're doing and how close you are to what he's doing, more or less.
Yeah. But then he follows her downtown, and we see this scene
How the fuck, by the way? Because she shoots his tire out, and then he's still, like, right behind her. Like, yeah, he could have gone... Oh, yeah. Okay, that's right. He does explain that away later.
Yeah. So, yeah, he has a transmitter in a car, even though he can't move because she shot his tire. But he ends up downtown, right where she is. So at first you're like, oh, what the fuck is that? But we have this whole scene of Whoopi looking at a dress in the mirror and just like asking the woman about it, and she's like, oh, it's $5,000. Then we get to look at the dress. It is the most hideous looking dress I've ever seen. Like, who in their right minds would pay $5,000 for that?
People in the 1980s, that's who.
It's black with just like this horrible looking silver sequins kind of sunbursting out of the collar, and then like horrible gaudy shoulder pads.
As we saw in the movie, everybody in the 80s was on cocaine, so that's just what came of it.
Yeah.
So anyway, she was going to a restaurant, or she's looking downtown for a pimp that was the one that sold her informant, her friend, the Bad Batch.
Yes.
Okay, she is looking for this guy, going on this description of him, that he looks like Richard Gere. This guy could not look any farther away from Richard Gere. Like, how the fuck did they find him? He looks nothing like Richard Gere.
No, not even close.
I have to think that was just like in the script, and they're just like, oh, whatever, just keep it.
Guy looks vaguely Hispanic. Not like Richard Gere.
I will say, though, that this pimp does have something that just blew me away, and it's a street name, or I guess like a nickname for cocaine that I have never heard before, but he calls it Colombian cuckoo dust.
Well, no, because he's like, hey, I got some blow for you. Well, Whoopi walks up to him and acting like a small town girl, like, are you Richard Gere? And once again, he doesn't look like fucking Richard Gere.
But he acts like I hear that all the time.
Yeah, this is initial reaction, like, oh, I get that all the time, and he just like, and he starts like trying to sweet her up and stuff, and he's like, hey, you want to, after this drink, want to head back to my place? I got some blow. And she's like, blow? What's that? He's like, blow, click, buzz, Colombian cuckoo dust. Like, none, like the only actual
blow is the only one I knew.
Yeah, the other ones I do not think are real. I think
the other ones I could buy, like buzz or click, that could just be a local name. But calling it fucking Colombian cuckoo dust, why would you take the time? It takes longer to say that than to just say cocaine.
You know, maybe he's a part-time stand-up comic, and that's what he had come up with.
He looks like a part-time stand-up comic in the 1980s, way more so than he looks like Richard Gere.
Way more. And so this guy tries to run away. Whoopi shoots him in the ass, and I love that he falls into the kitchen where he was trying to run. So yeah, they take him in the refrigerator. She has this interrogation scene where she gets another one of her "there are two things I hate" lines: a man with funky underarms and a man that calls me a bitch. And then after she gets the information she wants, she has another dick joke where she's kind of sticking her.
Well, yeah, she's threatening to shoot him, like, in the junk.
In the penis.
Yeah. And then after he gives her the information, she starts fucking with him, and she's like, oh, is that it? Is that it right there? He's like, yeah, that's it. He's like, that is pathetic. That feels like it's this big. Yeah. I would be mad if I got that. And
then we go to the real display of America's conception of New York in the 1980s. That is just a hell on earth. We go to like this drug square or something, like this dilapidated building, and
it's like a whole nother city within the city.
Yeah, and there are like 300 people in this scene easily, like with it, like in between outside of the building and inside, and like she's walking around outside in her horrible prostitute garb,
which is the same one she wore, like especially since the last time she wore it she got found out as an undercover cop. Maybe change it up a little bit. Maybe don't wear the same thing you got like found out in just a few days ago, because guess what, it comes around to bite you in the fucking ass.
Yeah, she is a horrible undercover cop. Because it's like,
she
how
really
undercover are you being at this point? And yeah, so she's trying to walk around. She ends up getting to Raphael, the guy that the refrigerator guy gave her up or gave her, and there were just so many people in this hallway, like it's lined with 100 people trying to buy drugs. Like
Exactly, and how would there not be dead people all the fuck around this little area with the bad batches of the drugs?
Yeah, well, I'm guessing once again that maybe it's just this one small batch, and so maybe it's so isolated, like, oh, just another person ODing, but who knows? It's not, like you said, it's not explained, it's not really talked about too much. And so she gets into Raphael, and even while the door's open with all these junkies hanging out around outside, she pulls out a wad of fucking money and just throws on the table. And it's like, yeah, I'd like to do business with you. Like, you, if anyone sees this, you are definitely getting killed on your way out. You are in a hallway full of junkies that can easily see inside. And you were throwing a big wad of money down to buy drugs.
Yeah.
This is not the way to do this.
Well, I said, it seems like she is a good cop, except when she is doing undercover work. She fucks that up every single time.
Oh, it's so bad. And she gets found out by one of the people that saw her before, and
who actually, the guy that finds her out, I forget his name, it's like Michael DiLorenzo or something like that. But he was in a number of things in the 80s, like the show Head of the Class. He was also in a couple of the Michael Jackson videos.
Oh,
yeah, he was like in the Michael Jackson Beat It video as one of the gang members, dancers, and he was even like a zombie in the Thriller video and stuff. Like, I recognized him immediately.
Yeah, I think I do remember him from Head of the Class. I watched that a little bit. It was there. And so she gets found out, like, she's locked in the room with the Raphael guy, and Earl and Chucky come up, and they're trying to break down the door, and they're shooting at it, and it won't fall off. So the people that were guarding outside the drug dealer's place, they shoot at the door enough that it falls, even though before it couldn't be shot down or broken down by Earl. And so they just shoot it enough, and then the door hinges just come off, it falls forward, and they just go fucking insane inside and just shoot everything, including the drug dealer who they were supposed to ostensibly be protecting. And then we get to see that Sam Elliott is there to protect Whoopi.
Yeah, to save the day.
Because Sam Elliott is just fucking everywhere in this movie. He is always...
He's like the wind. He's like a ghost. I don't know, it's so weird when they're kind of going room to room looking for people because it clears out very quickly and they kind of have to have a sneaky shootout. Every time they look into a room, they're leaving their backs completely open. It is not a good way to move through a building. No, someone should be watching the other person's back at all times.
Yeah, well, and I also kind of, I really like the scene. I thought it was very well shot. It was nice and suspenseful, I guess. But at the same time, the spatial relation in this whole scene is not there. Like, you have no idea where they are, where they've been moving. It is completely obscure.
Yeah, it's very confusing and just kind of insane, really, like moving from place to place and you don't know where anything connects or where anyone is in relation to the other people.
And as they're leaving to try and catch the guys, as cops come up to the place,
oh, hang on. Before this happens, though, they are kind of like sneaking around and kind of shooting out with each other.
Yeah.
And Brad Dourif ends up being right behind Sam Elliott at one point in time, and he's about to shoot him. And then, like, all of a sudden, Sam Elliott realizes it and, like, ducks it away. And it's weird. It's like his fucking mustache sense went off. It was, like, tingling, and he's like, oh my god, gotta move. And yeah, it was a pretty funny scene. And then he hurt himself because he fell on his butt.
And so they go and try and catch the guys before they escape. I guess from the girl shooting all willy-nilly, she cut out this hole, and the floor just decides to fall right once Whoopi Goldberg's there, and she gets crushed by a piece of ceiling falling on her. She has to go to the hospital, and the Sam Elliott goes to meet her there, and he brings her a present because he's sweet like that.
He is, but actually, Brad Dourif finds out where, like, what hospital she is at by calling the hospital and being like, "Hey, this is Father Martin or whatever. I work at a school. All the fourth graders want to write her a note and send it to her, but we don't know where to send it. Why don't you give us vital, like, personal information about where this cop is that you shouldn't be giving out to just anyone willy-nilly?" But there is this beautiful thing, because he gets the information, he's like, thank you, and then he kind of like turns his head, and it's just like a close-up of his face, and he's just like, the cunt's here. And I get to see Tom Holland, the director, is like, make sure to get a nice close-up on Dourif's cunt delivery. Seriously, this is going to be imperative to the film.
Yeah, I also love that any other time you see these guys, they are just in like inner city dregs, and in the background of that shot is just a very nice lamp that looks like it's in a beach house or something, and white walls. It's very pretty where he is, wherever he is.
Yeah.
And so Sam Elliott, we go back to where Sam Elliott's bringing Whoopi a gift on at her hospital bed.
Which, by the way, for one, since when can you wear a gun with your hospital scrubs? And for two, since when do you wear hospital scrubs and not a fucking hospital gown like any other patient in a hospital does? She dresses like a doctor or a nurse.
So Sam Elliott gives her a gift, and surprise, surprise, it's the dress that she really wanted, the hideous, gaudy
hideous,
dress.
fugly fucking dress.
And I was so ready for a scene of Whoopi wearing this dress. I was like, oh, thank God, we're gonna get to see her in this hideous fucking dress. Nope. Just passed over.
Well, she can't accept it because technically, in a roundabout way, it's bought with drug money.
Yeah, and Sam Elliott's like, nah, this is honest money. And that's my Sam Elliott impression.
Oh, is that what that was?
It was bad,
I thought you had a cold.
No, I mean, you'd think I would be able to do a better Southern impression, but I guess not.
So basically, her partner leaves to leave Whoopi alone with Sam Elliott, and in doing so, he goes to the elevator, and when the elevator opens, there's Brad Dourif with a comically oversized gift box that just happens to be holding a shotgun. Her partner recognizes him, so immediately just like takes out the shotgun and shoots at him, and he sprains his ankle. But then the elevator door is closed, and he's still in an elevator full of people, just like holding a shotgun now, just like, sorry guys.
Yeah, everyone in the elevator is just like, hey, whatever. We're just gonna hang back, man.
I would like to think that Brad Dourif just did not acknowledge them whatsoever once those elevator doors closed. He just stood there waiting for it to go back to the ground floor, and he was just like, this is really embarrassing. Maybe if I just don't look at them, that they won't notice me.
Just like, this heat, am I right? And going back to the comically oversized gift box, you think that's where T2 got it?
Perhaps.
James Cameron was a big fan of Fatal Beauty, I would think.
Well, I have a theory that James Cameron has stolen every idea he ever had from Whoopi Goldberg movies.
I could see the links between Theodore Rex and Titanic.
Exactly. And they came out around the same time. No one's saying he stole it, but he fucking stole it.
And so Whoopi gets and Sam Elliott get in this fight outside the hospital.
Which, dude, acting. That's what was going on there.
You know what? Whoopi was weak in that scene. I found her pretty strong in most scenes. She was really weak in this scene. She did not play angry very well for me. I didn't enjoy it.
I thought she did. She got a little sassy, and she was like putting a finger up in his face and be like, you know what? You're an asshole and a coward.
Yeah.
Fuck you. Get the fuck away from me.
I wanted her to lose a little bit more control. She seemed a little reserved for my taste. I mean, but that just, it's in the Whoopi pantheon. I give it a 6.
You sound like such an asshole.
What? With my Whoopi pantheon, you've seen my graphs.
Why don't you just take another hit out of your pipe, adjust your scarf, and get back to the movie.
So we get back to Whoopi's house. Sam Elliott gives her a ride after much bickering. And
this is one of my favorite lines here, because she notices that her cat is on the roof, and she kind of like pulls out her gun and looks at it. She's like, my cat's on the roof. And Sam Elliott goes, so you gonna shoot it?
Yeah, that's the way to deal with cats on roofs. Come on, where have you been? And also, I'll point out that after that, he's just like, no, there's something wrong. He's like, why? He's like, well, my cat's on the roof and it hates heights. And my door's open. Like, don't you think that's the more pertinent information?
Anything could have scared your fucking cat up onto the roof. Yeah. But no, I think the door being open should have been your first sign.
Yeah, that's the first clue, not the cat being on the roof.
Cats are fucking weird, man. You can't understand them. They just do what they do.
And how does she know there are cats afraid of heights? Where does that information come from?
Yeah, and cats aren't usually afraid of heights.
No,
they're pretty
and
good
if they
with
are,
them.
How would you observe that? How would you not be like, oh, my cat just likes being on the ground instead of being up high?
Yeah. I guess maybe her cat every once in a while gets stuck up on the roof. She has to get it down because it's too afraid to come down.
Yeah.
There's a whole backstory to this that we don't even get to know.
There's so many questions left at the end of this movie.
And all of them are because of that fucking cat.
Oh, that fucking cat. Maybe that's where That Darn Cat came from. It was the sequel to Fatal Beauty. It turned into That Darn Cat.
I always wanted to make a sequel to That Darn Cat and said, that fucking cat, instead.
Let's make a sequel to That Darn Cat called Fatal Beauty 3. Just throw everyone off.
Fatal Beauty 3, That fucking cat.
That Darn Cat 2, Fatal Beauty 3. That'll be the name. So, it turns out that the kid from before that threatened her in the deli apparently did know where her apartment was or where her house was, and he's on the couch and she's like, what are you doing here?
Yeah, so he only lived up to 1/3 of his threats. He just broke into her house.
No raping her, no kicking of asses. He just like they're all dead. Like, well, they're all dead.
Cue 80 movie dance pop upbeat party song.
Yeah, well, that is also just playing on the stereo.
I know, but that was my favorite music cue in this movie, because he's just like very
awesome.
Serious, very solemn, just like, they're all dead. Dun, 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 dun.
Yeah, and it's flashing.
And I think
on
that's
these...
the Debbie Gibson song right there.
Yeah, and it's there's these shots of all these kids, like all about a bunch of white kids that are all just dead lying around at this party. It's kind of brutal. It was pretty like, I wish that Oingo Boingo Dead Man's Party had been playing on the stereo. that would have been so much better.
Oh, that would have been too much.
Oh, a genius. Just absolutely genius if that had happened, but it didn't. And we find out that he got one of the bad Fatal Beauty bags, and he escapes it because he wanted to go swimming before getting coked up, because that's something people do.
I also love because he's kind of like very sad, like talking about what happened, and he's like, so I had some coke, right? And we were gonna do it up and party and stuff. I don't know. This is funny how he delivered it, but he's just like, but I wanted to take a dip in the pool first. And I came back and they were all dead.
That would be a very weird scene to walk into, but Whoopi finds out his mother gave him the bag.
So we get to meet 80s mom, coke dealer.
Yes! Yeah! And while she's playing tennis, apparently she throws very lavish tennis parties.
Yeah, and she's pretty racist, because Whoopi Goldberg comes up to her, obvious cop badge hanging off of her jacket, and the first thing she says to her, deliveries around back. Yeah. And then she makes fun of her suit. She's like, oh, yeah. I almost confused you for a party guest with your undercover suit by Kmart.
Yeah. And this woman is so uptight. Like
she is uptight, entitled, rich, asshole, white bitch.
Yeah, so there's a cop trying to ask her about things, and this woman, like, after a little bit of prodding, this woman decides the way to deal with this cop is to punch her in the face. And so Whoopi Goldberg comes back and punches her in the gut, and then she tries to talk her. She's like, it's illegal in California to attack a police officer. I'm going to read you your rights. So the woman kicks her in the shins. So Whoopi punches her in the face, throwing her through a bunch of plate glass.
That's how you fucking punch somebody.
That's a fucking punch. It was awesome. I loved it. It was so over the top and ridiculous. I loved her flying through the window.
Oh yeah, that was really good. Of course, she kind of walks through the broken glass and stuff, and she's still being kind of smarmy towards her, reading her rights. But then, of course, Sam Elliott comes to ruin the day for everyone, because he's just always there, just 5 steps behind Whoopi.
Yeah, which the woman gets another punching on Whoopi, so Whoopi gets to punch her into the pool.
And he tells her to, after she hits Whoopi, he's like, hit her.
Yeah, hit her. And she walks away, even though Whoopi does have every right to arrest this woman at this point.
Yeah, she hit a cop several times, and she already read her rights. Like, I'm pretty sure she is pretty much arrested at this point. Why are they just gonna fucking leave her there?
That was weird. Yeah, I didn't understand that, but... So... We go back to the home scene, and this scene is so intense.
Yes. Okay, I will say, though, the thing that starts this scene is, I think, the most awkward line of the movie. Because she offers to make him coffee, and she's like, oh, how do you take your coffee? And he goes, black. And they kind of have a little moment between each other, and I was like, really? Is this what we're doing with this movie now? Oh my god. Just imagine if she was like, how do you take your coffee? And he went, Italian.
Italian.
That would have been even better.
Italian and dreadlocked.
Yeah, so we basically, Whoopi Goldberg gets a call that I think like 4 school kids between like 8 and 12 years old died.
I also love that when she's talking about, she's like, 4 dead kids at grammar school. 8, 9, 10, and 12. Like, why not? Why make them consecutive? Like, why? That's such a weird number.
Yeah, that seems like it's for completely different kids, and it wasn't like a group of friends that were doing it together.
Yeah, exactly.
Because what 12-year-old is going to hang out with an 8-year-old?
Yeah, very strange. But anyway, we move on, and Whoopi has this heartbreaking scene where
She is so
just
fucking good in this scene.
Oh, it's so
when
amazing.
She delivers this story.
Yeah, and she's just talking about like I wasn't a pretty kid. It was hard because I came from a family of pretty people, and so I never really felt wanted. And talks about how she got into drugs because she didn't feel pretty, and they made her feel pretty and fun, and people liked her.
Yeah, and she had a baby when she was 14 years old, and
yeah, from a guy that went out with her on a dare. That's so oh my god, that's so
it was
heartbreaking.
And yeah, it just basically tells the story about how she was so busy with her drugs, and that's all she worried about. She went out to get some more drugs, and when she came back, her stash was gone, and she was like looking for it and freaking out and stuff, not realizing that her daughter was gone and that there was sprinkles of it around. And she apparently gets a call saying like, yeah, your daughter is dead. I guess she like fell in the pool or drowned or something.
Yeah, that was weird because it's a call for. She says that the pool guy called to tell her that her baby was dead because it got into her stash. Like, wait, why the pool guy? I don't get it.
That made me think that she did some of the stuff and then like went into the pool and drowned or something like that.
I guess,
so, yeah. Okay,
but...
and again, a very heartbreaking story. Whoopi does a fantastic job in this scene.
Yeah,
but how the fuck did she become a cop after that? And 2, how the fuck is she not in jail for like child endangerment and murder? Like, how did she become a cop? I realized that was when she was younger. She was probably less than 20 at that point in time. But still, I understand that making her turn her life around and stop doing drugs and stuff. But how did she not like go to jail for causing the death of her daughter with drugs?
There's reckless endangerment was a thing in the late 80s.
Yeah, reckless endangerment, and even beyond that, because the kid died, it's kind of like murder. Yeah, she basically killed her child by...
That's involuntary manslaughter. Yeah, she should have a lot of charges racked up.
Yeah, and there wasn't even a line about it. It wasn't even just like I had to spend time in jail or I had to, go to rehab or anything like that. It was just kind of like, that happened, so I decided to turn my life around and become a cop. How the fuck did they let you become a cop with that on your record?
Here's my Fatal Beauty fan fiction, is that her daughter got into her stash. Then, like you were saying, she walked into the pool and died. And because of that, they never did an autopsy. So she got away, even though she knows it was because of her drugs.
But the pool guy said that, she died because she got in your stash. It might have been because of the pool, but the pool guy know it was because of the drugs. So why wouldn't he tell anyone since this kid just fucking died?
Well, in this fan fiction, the pool guy is in love.
The pool guy let her go, but he got a blowjob out of it.
Yeah, because he's also into Italian girls.
Exactly. And, she was crying the whole time during it, but he was into that, so it just worked out in his favor in every possible way.
And so here's what I think is the weirder part of this scene. And this actually goes back to the Ebert review of it. Because after the scene ends, like, there's this swelling of music, Sam Elliott sitting there listening to her tell her story, and you think there's about to be a love scene. They're about to kiss or something.
Yeah, but they hug, and it's very sweet. It is.
It is, and it fades out, but...
They totally fucked, right?
No, it does not imply that.
I think it does. I think it does because, it cuts to her in the shower the next day, and the phone is ringing, and she asks him to get the phone. So yeah, he could have just stayed the night.
That's true.
When she goes looking for him, she goes into her own bedroom and looks at the empty bed that is all ruffled up, and the covers are all messed up and everything.
You're right.
They totally fucked. It doesn't. I think they did cut out a love scene because that's what Roger Ebert said about it. But
yeah, that they.
I think it still implies it. Because, like I said, definitely with her taking a shower the next day, when she goes into the room, she looks in her bedroom at her bed, where it looked like 2 people got done fucking last night.
And so she gets a call from the mother, the kid that had all the dead friends, cut his wrist. He's alive, but the mom decides she wants to cooperate, which leads Whoopi to Kroll Plaza for our final showdown. And what a showdown it is.
Oh yeah, definitely. Because it's basically the big grand opening of Kroll Plaza, which is like a big shopping mall that kind of the main bad guy just opened. But it kind of opens and you see like huge crowds of people and you see like a clown doing stuff for the kids. I was hoping so much that Whoopi Goldberg was going to be undercover as the clown. I was really hoping that was going to happen.
That would have been so good.
Oh man.
But no, she's back in her denim t-shirt.
Yeah.
And And I love shit. So there's this. They find the guy he's an attractive blonde man in a white turtleneck. Because every description of someone has to be incredibly vague and could be at least 4 or 5 people with it.
Especially in the 80s. Who wasn't wearing white turtlenecks in the
Come
80s?
on.
If they had blonde hair, they were wearing a fucking turtleneck.
Yeah. And so the guy sells these teenagers some drugs.
Which, by the way, this movie was constantly referred to as like the female Beverly Hills Cop, and I didn't get that at all. I think it had much more of like a Dirty Harry or Sharky's Machine vibe to it than it did Beverly Hills Cop. I think it's just because she was the black lead actress in it, and she was kind of like cracking jokes and known more for comedy, doing an action movie. I think that's why they considered it that. But as far as the movies go, side by side, no, it's much more akin to like a Dirty Harry or a Sharky's Machine, who also kind of crack wise, because all badass cops do that.
Yeah,
than it was like a Beverly Hills. I feel that was an unfair comparison, and I think that's mostly just because it was like Eddie Murphy and Whoopi Goldberg, two big kind of black comedians. So it's like, it's pretty much like they're doing the same thing.
I could see that. There are a lot more jokes in this than Sharky's Machine, or definitely than Dirty Harry.
Yeah.
But yeah, I get what you're saying. It's definitely...
Well, especially coming from one of the writers of Dirty Harry. Like that, it had more of that feel to it than it did like a Beverly Hills Cop, which is more of a comedy movie than an action movie. And this one has way more action than it does comedy.
Yeah, definitely. I totally agree. It's not quite a comedy, but it's an action comedy. It's definitely second billed as comedy.
Yeah, and I think that's mostly because of the addition of Whoopi Goldberg. Because I doubt when Cher was originally attached as star that there was that much comedy in it.
It would be weird.
Because Cher's not very funny, man.
I mean, besides The Mask, like I can't say anything Cher's really done well. Mask, Mask.
Two completely different movies, my friend.
I thought she was Jim Carrey for a minute. I get them confused every once in a while. So let's move back to there's this big drug deal going down, and apparently in this world, big drug deals happen in the back of department stores. It is insane. They're the turtleneck guy and the main bad guys are meeting amidst racks of clothes. They are not even a back room.
They're at like a JCPenney's or something.
Yeah, and they have duffel bags full of money and are in bags full of coke.
And they're just like holding, like there's a shot of like him pulling out money to give to Brad Dourif, and then Dourif's guy is like just holding 2 handfuls of fucking drug bags.
Yeah,
just like see him.
Yeah, even loosely stacked money. He's like, there's 10,000, there's another 10,000 of just loose money on this fucking table next to this duffel bag. Like, this is a very odd scene for anybody. And they're not even supposed to be there. So Kroll's this main drug dealer, main drug boss, and he doesn't approve of this, yet it's happening on his property. Like, how dumb are these motherfuckers?
Yeah, they have to know, like, that's who it's coming from. So, obviously, that's the place you want to do your big drug deal.
Yeah.
Right under the nose and right in front of the face of the guy that you fucking ripped off.
Yeah, the hubris is what kills
Which, by the way, because Kroll here, like, he doesn't have very much. He has, like, maybe 2 or 3 scenes in the movie. And he's kind of, like... He's supposed to be the big bad guy, but he doesn't really get much to do. He's kind of underplayed. Brad Dourif is definitely the main bad guy.
Yeah.
But he basically knows this is happening, and he's like, fucking take care of him. Do what you got to do. Try to take care of it quietly, but if you can't, then you can't, right? And I was like, no, dude, this is the grand opening of your new fucking plaza. Don't send out your goons to fucking start killing people and just like, if you have to get dirty with it, get dirty with it. That's bad publicity for your new fucking mall.
Because that's where I want drug deaths and drug deals.
It's like, no, you say
I want that.
You say highlighted. You go catch them and you drag them off quietly to somewhere else, to the back of the department store, and then you fucking kill them.
Yeah, something like that. But no, they decide to go in guns blazing. Sam Elliott saves Whoopi before she storms in, before Kroll's cops go in, and she kind of inexplicably kicks him in the nuts. Get that?
See, I think that goes back to the fact that they totally fucked then. Because after the next morning, after he is gone, she kind of looks through her files and is like, he fucking took my files on that I had on Kroll. She was like, you fucking used me and you had sex with me just to get my files. That's what that kick in the nuts was about.
Okay, got it. Because I didn't get why she was looking through the files. That makes sense. So the cops start off the shoot off with these guys, and we have the most
And they're not even cops. They're like mall security guards.
Yeah, mall security is just going insane, shooting people.
It's like observe and report times 1,000.
Oh, it's insane. And then we have this really inexplicable shootout scene where there's security guards versus the two main bad guys, because they're the only ones that survive. And they just have their machine guns rocking. And then Whoopi Goldberg off on the side kind of also chasing. And it gets really confused for moments of it, but this movie has my favorite inexplicable item blowing up after being shot in the world. So Whoopi's like rolling around trying to dodge the shots. The security guards are shooting at the guys too, but just people are getting mowed down everywhere, civilians alike. And Whoopi Goldberg, you see her kind of dive behind something, and it only shows up for a second, but it's a fucking popcorn machine, and it gets shot, and it blows up into flames. Did you see that?
I did not.
Go back and watch
I will, because that is fucking amazing.
When they're having a shootout in the plaza, I swear to God, unless I just totally missed it, there is a popcorn machine that gets shot and burst into flames, and I could not stop cracking. I'm like, what?
That is amazing. No, I did not notice that. I'll have to go back and watch that.
I think that's when this movie elevated to not Sharky's machine status, but the tier underneath, where I was like, that is an amazing action conceit. They just blew up a fucking popcorn machine.
It's basically the Beverly Hills Cop of Sharky machine ripoffs.
There you go. I think that's more apt.
So basically we get to what is kind of like the main last like big shootout, which happens in a Sport Mart. Which poor Sport Mart, by the way, because that shit gets destroyed.
Oh man, bad. I will say, I love the music in the scene. It has these shakers and these snaps, and then there's something like the theme from Halloween going on in the background, like this weird do 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 like piano music.
It makes it very tense.
Yeah,
it's very kind of off-putting music, and it just like you're never sure what's going on. The music doesn't give away anything.
Yeah, the music did very well, and I think one of my other favorite thing from this movie, because I just love this last shootout scene, is they're kind of stalking around. It mostly looks like the two guys versus Whoopi Goldberg, but the security guards are also in there, kind of. Whoopi's walking down an aisle, her back's turned. The two guys jump out with their machine guns, but then two guards come in and get in the way of them shooting Whoopi Goldberg. And as they're being shot, a third guard jumps out and just gets in the middle of the crossfire.
He just jumps into the firefight. For no fucking reason. Yeah, the two guys get mowed down, and he's like, hey, me too!
Because he doesn't have his gun pointed or anything. He just jumps out.
It's like you guys always forget me.
It's just like, I'll save you, Mr. President.
Yeah, but that's where we get to the part where the two bad guys are trying to exit out of the store, and they basically do just kind of like, there's just two doors closed, and then there's just a padlock on the door. Mm-hmm. All they have to do is shoot the padlock, and they get through the door. Instead, they shoot all around the padlock, and then he basically goes and runs into it, and he's like, it won't budge, man. I don't know what to do. And it was just a waste of bullets, and all you had to do was shoot. At first, I was just like, man, that's a waste of bullets just to open that door. All you have to do is shoot the padlock one time. Yeah. But then they don't even shoot the padlock. They can't get through the door.
That's like, look at the locking mechanism right in front of you. Maybe that is what you should try and destroy.
Yeah, I thought that was hilarious. And then we do kind of have like the Chucky moment of the movie, because he's kind of trying to draw Whoopi Goldberg's attention so his partner can get her. So he's just like screaming. It's like, hey, bitch, I'm gonna get you. And it's just like, it does just sound like Chucky is moving through a department store about to come get her. It was awesome.
I could totally see that. I will point out before this last scene, because there's a couple things to point out, but so Whoopi Goldberg gets her new gun, blah blah blah, we don't have to cover that, but the guys change their clips at that moment, and then they go on, and Earl never shoots another time.
I did notice this.
Until he gets to Whoopi and he flips it again. It's just like, why'd you flip it?
That's I would have been like empty or about empty. Yeah, because he hadn't shot it and he just changed it again for no reason. Like I said, it was very realistic in the beginning, and then towards the end, they just like, they shoot forever, and then they just flip it when they don't even fucking need to. It goes out the window. I took back my first statement about how realistic the gunfights were in this movie.
Yeah, it's very weird. And so Earl comes and flips his gun around to the wrong side, or flips his clip around to the wrong side, but he gets taken over by Sam Elliott, who shoots him, and then Sam Elliott gets shot in the belly. And then there's this whole other scene where they go to a parking garage.
Well, before that, actually,
Okay.
we get to see Kroll die. Because she chases Brad Dourif out of the store and leaves Sam Elliott there. And then Kroll comes up to her and he's just like, "Oh, you fucking bitch, you ruined my grand opening." Or actually, I did by telling them to fucking cause this disturbance.
Yeah.
But she basically has the gun pointed at him, and then she has a shotgun pointed at him, and then he pulls a little tiny gun. So that happens, and then Brad Dourif shows up behind Kroll and shoots Kroll, pretty much. And then she has to go chase Dourif. So he kind of has like a bullshit ending. He just kind of gets shot and whatever.
Very
I kind of love
anticlimactic.
the fact that Brad Dourif really is the final boss in this movie. Like he's the last one she has to go, because he's awesome as a bad guy, and he always is. So yeah, they do chase. She chases him to a parking garage, and it's kind of a long drawn out scene, but there is finally the scene where she sees him and she shoots him like fucking 5 or 6 times. Or I guess not 5 or 6 times, but she shoots him, and he kind of like turns around for a second, and he turns back around, and he has this moment when he turns around that he looks at her, and he has this face like, "Did you just fucking shoot me, bitch?"
Yeah. And then he rips his shirt open, and he's like, "Kevlar, bitch!" And so she pulls out her 6-shooter that's apparently reloaded now, and shoots him in the neck, and he just goes flying back, and once again through broken glass of the car window.
He kind of played his cards a little bit too soon. He shouldn't have opened up his shirt and give her an open shot from his head to his neck and just be like, "Kevlar." She's like, "Okay, well, I won't shoot you there anymore." Because she probably just thought that he was like on the drugs and like just wasn't feeling anything.
It's like the evil genius revealing his plan when he thinks he has everything in control.
Yeah.
Like, why even do that? He should have just
Which, by
shot
the
her.
way, what the fuck, movie? Like, not a single person in this movie just does a fucking headshot every time they start shooting someone and they won't fucking go down.
Yeah.
Shoot them in the head. They'll go down really fucking quick.
Yeah. I bet that takes them down real quick.
Yeah.
And so then we go back out, and Sam Elliott's on the stretcher, and we get to see him and Whoopi kiss, and it's kind of awkward. I don't know. I feel like it's awkward to watch Whoopi kiss anyone.
Yeah, a little bit, but at that point in the movie, I felt like it was earned more.
It was.
Because they kind of went through
earned.
a thing. Like I said, I was completely down with the fact that they did have sex, and he kind of betrayed her, but then he came back and saved her at the end. I felt like it was earned at that point, and they had enough charisma and chemistry with each other that it totally worked for me.
Yeah. No, it wasn't bad, and then it almost ends where...
Because it kind of fades out on her face, but then you see the tires rolling.
Yeah, they kiss, and she says, "You gonna be fine." And then it freeze frames on her face, and then it goes to credits where they are driving around in her pink Cadillac like fucking maniacs, along with the horrible fucking song again about
the criminal song.
Yeah.
Which actually, like, I think that's something that's very much 80s that I don't see that much anymore. Where a movie ends and like during the credits they just have like a random scene playing that kind of like tries to sum up the movie a little bit, but doesn't really have anything to do with what directly happened behind it.
Yeah, and I do think those are cool. It feels very awkward after a freeze frame. Like a freeze frame, that means you draw the credits and those start coming up, not that you go to another scene where it starts playing again.
And it is kind of an awkward scene because it does feel like it was just to keep the butts in the seats while the song plays a little bit longer to try to get the soundtrack sales up or something. So, that was Fatal Beauty. It turned out to be a pretty awesome and much more violent and dark movie than we were expecting to get from a Whoopi Goldberg film. So check it out if you get the chance. Join us next week as we pick apart the 1997 third Conan film turned Kevin Sorbo vehicle, Call the Conqueror. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time at Crest Celluloid.